Hello, this is Zach from Kick-Ass Freelancing, and today we have a very special guest right over here, Magpie. And I don't know if you can see on this MacBook camera, but she just did a very cute repositioning. She's here for emotional support as we talk about the sometimes stressful world of sales. So today I'm going to share 10 tips for freelance web designers and developers and really any kind of freelancer, but there are a couple that are specific to web design. So let's dive into the tips. So first tip is that nobody wants to be sold to. If you have ever had a telemarketer call you while you were eating dinner and immediately launch into some script, I'm sure you can appreciate this one. So as a good salesperson, what we need to do is go from trying to sell somebody stuff to instead being in the business of providing solutions to their problems. If you can get yourself positioned as a solution provider, you are going to be able to be more of like a trusted advisor rather than someone who's just looking out for themselves. So the way to do this is reframe how you go into your sales appointments such that your goal is to find out what this person's problems are and see how you can help. And ideally, see how you can help in a way where you're going to be providing a much higher ROI to them and basically give them back more money as a result of your efforts than what they're spending to hire you. Obviously, there are some activities you can't really trace to revenue, but where possible, always aim for providing value and ROI. Tip number 2, know when to highlight benefits rather than features. The thing that I like to illustrate with this is, let's say, a contact form. Nobody buys a website and pays thousands of dollars for it because they want a contact form. What they want is what the contact form does for them. And so in the context of a website, the contact form itself is the feature, whereas the benefit is growing their business and getting new customers. So if you were to be selling a contact form based on features, you'd say, hey, client name, I've got this super dope contact form I can install. We'll use Gravity Forms and it'll be automatic and it'll be so great. But that's focusing on features versus what it's going to do for them and why it matters. And so when speaking with a client on a sales call, so with a prospect rather, knowing when to highlight benefits versus features is really important. The way I personally like to do it in my process is that the beginning of the call, as we are problem solvers, is more focused on their problems. And so in that phase of the call, I'm going to be talking more about benefits of things that I might be able to create. And at the end, when I am sort of substantiating what I'm going to do for them, which often can happen even after the actual sales call, that's when getting into the features and saying, I'm going to achieve this result of getting you more business or getting more clients in touch with you, whatever, with a contact form. So benefits versus features, be mindful of them and think of when it's appropriate to be talking about a feature versus a benefit. This is especially important for coders. As a developer, it's really easy to get super excited about the awesome ways that I'm going to build something, the cool library I'm going to use or whatever. But the client doesn't care about any of that. All they care about is how this tool that you're building for them affects their bottom line. So tip number 3, which I sort of covered a little bit in the previous tip, is that value delivery trumps all else. So whenever you're speaking with a client or a prospective client, be thinking about how you can be delivering value to them. And when you're thinking about benefits versus features, remember that nothing matters if you're not delivering value, and ideally a traceable positive ROI where they feel that they got more than their money's worth as a result of hiring you. And sometimes that is a close to the money thing, which if you don't know this concept, check out my close to the money video. But sometimes that value delivery is close to the money. You can show them you spent $1,000 on this package and it generated $2,000, so it provided an ROI. But other times the value delivery is, they didn't have to hire somebody to work full-time on their team in order to accomplish this end result, or they didn't have to do it themselves, or whatever it might be. Like, you bring value in other ways than the direct financial ones, even though the direct financial ones are easiest to prove. So always be thinking about how you can be delivering more value with your services than you are taking with your payment. Tip number 4, don't assume you know what they want. When you're on a prospect call with somebody, it's easy, especially if they've kind of already outlined their scope to you, to assume you know what they want. It's even easier to do this when you've done about 1 million sites that are pretty much like this one. But it's also dangerous because if you go into the call making assumptions about what they want from you, you're liable to make wrong ones. And you're also liable to leave opportunities to be of more service and provide more value on the table. So something that I like to do to address this is try to dig in with them into what they want the website to do for them, how they're hoping it's going to grow their business or help streamline things or whatever it may be. If you can find out their core motivation for why they're trying to get a website in the first place, you're going to have this kind of forest through the trees view of what their priorities are and how you can help them with different services you might offer. Because it's kind of a classic thing that the specific way a client asks for something to be done is not necessarily representative of what they have done a lot of research into and are pretty dang sure is the best way, so much as it is often just something they found while Googling. And so if you just take all of their requests at face value without digging deeper, you're missing out on opportunities to help further. Tip number 5, less friction is not always better. With sales, it's sort of a foundational tenet that we're often taught that you should make it as easy as possible for somebody to buy from you, which I think if you're selling a product or a productized service, I think that's kind of true. But if you are like me, where you create bespoke websites for clients, I personally have found that adding a little bit of friction can actually be helpful because if you create bespoke websites, your process is so in-depth and interactive that you can't just get somebody's money and do the project. You have to get a lot of stuff from them. They have to send you content, choose pictures, pay their balance. Like they have to do so many things that you want them to be committed to the process. So in my opinion, if you're a bespoke service provider and you're not just super duper desperate for every client that comes your way, it can be really valuable to add friction in certain ways, make them sometimes have to kind of earn your time or work a little bit for it. Things like asking questions in the pre-sales process that they have to answer. If they don't answer them and they're kind of lazy, you might be able to determine that they're not a good client or reiterate to them that you're going to need their input and commitment to the project, things like that. This probably warrants its own video, but it's just an idea to consider. Tip number 6 ties in with the last one, which is just that if you have to chase somebody before the sale, you're probably going to have to chase them afterwards. And this is why I add a little bit of friction sometimes. If you are speaking with a prospective client, they say they're interested, but they don't pay their deposit, you follow up, they say, oh yeah, I'm super interested, I just have to blah, 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 checks in the mail, blah, 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 blah. But they never seem to get you what you're asking for, and they haven't even started the project yet. In my opinion, again, assuming you're not super desperate for any work, which everyone starts at a place where they are. But in my opinion, clients like that are often not worth your time because they are going to take so much of your unbilled time and mental energy just to get what you need from them that you're going to hate working with them and your time would have been better spent working with somebody else. And sometimes you can reframe the relationship with them by talking about this. Like if you're noticing that you're chasing them a lot, you can send them a message that's ideally not very dickish, but also direct, saying something like, hey, prospect name, I've been following up with you a bit and I've noticed it's kind of hard to pin you down. If you're wanting to move forward, I need some sort of commitment from you that this is a priority because the process that we're going to be working on together is quite intense, or maybe not intense, but quite involved. And I'm going to need your time and attention in order to do this. So let me know if you're not in a good position to do that. And sometimes a message like that, like kind of a stern talking to, is enough to get somebody to really prioritize it. And most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, it just serves to highlight that this person's not a good client. Tip number 7, inbound leads are way better than outbound leads. When I first started my business, we were getting most of our clients by cold calling. And the incidence of people who didn't attend sales meetings was extremely high. Like I would get no-showed on quite often, and the people who did attend the meetings would be very low to convert. Whereas these days, all of my business is inbound and comes from word of mouth. And when you have inbound leads, they convert much higher because they already know, like, and trust you. And they also are just better to work with because you are already kind of seen in a positive way in their eyes by the time they even come to you. So I have a blog post you can check out for some ideas on how to get more low prospecting inbound clients if you're not in a point where your referrals alone can keep you busy. So I'll link to that below. Be sure to check that out for more ideas on this. Tip number 8 is to formalize a sales and pre-sales and post-sales process. This is another one that I've outlined in a big blog post, and I have a Notion template that you can copy and paste and leverage that way. But basically having a formalized process, whether it's in Notion or Google Docs or on paper or whatever you use, that you can follow when you're on your sales calls will help you to get it where it's not such a guessing game and get yourself feeling more comfortable on them and not so much like you're selling people. It's a really good way to take all these tips I'm giving and really put them on autopilot without going to each call wondering what you're supposed to talk about. So formalizing a process, and I don't recommend a script, but rather just like a bulleted list. Talk about this thing, talk about this thing, talk about this thing. It'll just make your sales life so much easier and more enjoyable. Tip number 9 is to review, refine, and improve. Sales is just another skill. And if you have a process and you record your sales calls, like with Loom or something, you can watch those calls later and look for little parts that you need to refine, whether it's refining the process to help you remember to talk about a certain thing at a certain time, or moving something to a different part of the call, or it's a technique. If you notice on the call you were a little bit awkward, or there was something you said that confused the client, when you see that in the recording, you can make notes for yourself for next time. So this tip is just understand it's a skill and that you can get better with intentional practice, just like any skill. If you were trying to get better at the piano, you'd make a list of like certain types of songs to play or certain sorts of movements to get better at. And if you are wanting to get better at sales, you can note the areas where you need improvement and work on them. Tip number 10, last tip for today, is negotiate on price intelligently. The worst way to negotiate on price is, let's say you do your whole sales call. They say at the end, oh, that's all real great, but actually we were hoping to spend $2,000, not $5,000. So can you do that? The worst thing to do is to say, okay, yeah, sure, or some variation of that. The way that you can negotiate more intelligently on price is to see it as a lever that gets pulled in exchange for other things, like more of a compromise. So maybe you cut some scope, or maybe you change the deadline, or find a way for them to deliver value to you in exchange for the discount. This could be something like a services exchange. Let's say that they run a bakery and you really want to gain like 50 pounds in the next month. You could say, all right, tell you what, I'll lower your price by that, but I get an unlimited supply of donuts for the next however long you want to be eating donuts every day for. Or something else you can do to negotiate on price intelligently is offload some work to them. So if you're doing a website project where there's going to be a lot of like copying and pasting type work, you can potentially negotiate on price by saying, all right, cool, we can lower the price a bit, but in exchange, I need you or your virtual assistant or whatever to do blah, 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 blah thing. So those are the ways you can negotiate on price. Of course, again, all of this stuff, this is spoken from somebody with a lot of experience who's not super hungry for work at this point. If you're new and you need every gosh darn project that comes your way, maybe you do sometimes just have to say, yeah, sure. But as you grow and get more experience and have more demand on your time, it's good to keep these negotiation techniques in mind so that you're not just giving away your time and killing your effective hourly rate as a result. So those are 10 tips. Do you have any you think I missed? Because there are a lot I missed and they'll be in future videos. Do you have any that stuck out to you as really helpful? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, I of course appreciate a like and subscribe. But more than that, tell you what I recommend is that you use the link in the description to go download the cheat sheet of all of these sales tips. I will be putting all of these, as well as all of the others that I can think of, compiled into one cheat sheet that you can print out, have a look at a glance, and you can pick somewhere. Maybe this week you want to focus on this one, or this week you want to focus on this one. And you can use these to gradually improve your sales skills and have the sales process be more fun and productive for you. So check those out. And if you want to get future tips like this, you can go to kickassfreelancing.com, join the email list, and I'll send things like this right to your email inbox. So thanks for being here. Magpie says goodbye and that she hopes you have a nice day. You can't see it, but her paws just going like this. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.